Hello, and welcome to MarylandReporter.com's weekly podcast. I'm Andy Rosen, here with editor and publisher Len Lazarick and Liam Farrell of the Annapolis Capital. Here we are today to talk about some of the hottest education issues that are playing out, especially as the state's budget starts to roll through the Senate. This is happening all through next week, and we'll see the Senate budget on the floor next week. So you'll hear a lot about some of these issues. One of these is a policy issue, though, and it has to do with tweaking or adding elected school boards to a lot of local jurisdictions. And Liam has been tracking this. What can you tell us about it, Liam? Number 5 most important issue.
Well, every year, certain jurisdictions come forward either wanting elected school boards or, in terms of Anne Arundel County, which kind of has a hybrid system, more in line with judges being appointed to a school board and then having retention elections. Every year people come and want to tweak school board policy, but it's kind of hard to get done. There's usually a lot of institutional resistance to this. I know Baltimore County is experiencing some of that now, and there's resistance in Anne Arundel County as well. Concerns about politicizing school boards, necessitating raising campaign finance, and the potential for minority underrepresentation.
The odd thing about this whole school board controversy is that, like, half the counties, and I don't know whether it's 12, 13, actually have elected school boards, and many of them, like Montgomery and Howard County, have had elected school boards for decades, and they from the elected school boards, they just consider it a little bit bizarre that a large county wouldn't have an elected school board, and it still goes through the senators, and there are different kinds of processes that are going on. So, but there's always this great resistance in Baltimore and Anne Arundel County to doing this. It's people from the other counties just find it bizarre.
Our number 4 most important issue here is the question over whether the state will create a sort of independent board to adjudicate labor negotiations between teachers and school systems. This has become pretty controversial. It almost passed last year. It's been heard this year, and it's starting to get late in the session. I'm not sure what will happen, but this has become a question about local governments are concerned they could lose their purse strings as these third-party board members could control what they have to pay teachers. It's been pretty interesting. We had a story about it a few weeks ago.
Well, and I was just talking to a lobbyist this morning on a completely different matter, and it was his point of view that the Assembly is doing a lot of things like this, which is supported by the public employee unions that favor their biggest supporters, the public employee unions, and there's other areas of the law that they're making changes that basically are designed to go into an election year to favor their supporters, and this is one of them.
And the number 3 most important issue, Len, you were going to talk about another issue for purse strings with local governments, the penalties that local governments pay if they don't maintain the amount of spending on schools that they had in the previous year. What's happening with that? You've written a lot about it.
Yeah, there's 2 different things. One is the penalty that was going to go to Montgomery County for not maintaining the same level of education funding, and that's pretty well sailing through. The counties are not getting what they expected on the overall maintenance of effort. They wanted it to be a lot easier for them to go to the state school board and justify that because of the current economic situation that they just couldn't afford to give the same level of school funding. That, of course, has been resisted by the Maryland Association of Boards of Education and by the superintendents.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that counties are going to get what they want, which is a blanket waiver this year, more than any other year, to not have to deal with maintenance of effort in the first place. And it doesn't seem that that's going to happen. So counties are kind of worried about how this is going to play out, because obviously that's a strain on their budgets. And you got to remember that some school boards have their own fund balances.
And an issue, Liam, that you have also been tracking is the evolution of this tax credit for contributions to private schools. This is something you've followed closely. It's had an interesting ride this year. What's going on? What does it do, and what's going on? Can you tell us?
Well, it basically would give a tax credit for certain business contributions to private and public schools alike. It passed the Senate, but it got a very ugly reception in the House, where it has died several years in a row. So I'm not sure if the prospects of it are looking good. A lot of ancillary concerns about discrimination and things like that were raised in a hearing this week, and it's not looking too bright at the moment.
The proposal this year is not to spend any money on it this year, and the amount of money that would be spent on it is relatively small, given the amount of money that's spent on public school education. But the public school people, again, the boards of education, the school superintendent, and the teachers union all object to this because they see it taking money out of the education pot.
Well, even though there has no money in it this year, a lot of states have ballooned programs approaching $50 to $100 million. I think Pennsylvania is over $100 million. And that's a big concern for all those advocates.
For the number one most important issue having to do with education this year, we're looking at a decision that the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee made on Friday, which was to begin next year, not in the budget they're making now, but next year, shifting liability for teacher pensions, of which the state now pays 100%, back to the counties. Len, you were there. What happened and what's going to happen now?
Well, as best we understand it, and it's been explained to us, it's going to back to a situation as they had with Social Security, where with Social Security and with retirement, that the counties and the state are sharing pension costs. This will happen gradually in the out years, so the counties have a chance to cope with this and budget for it. As explained to me by one county lobbyist, it looks like this will become part of the cost of the local school boards, and who must be funded by the county governments.
By the time this ramps up in 2015, about 5 years from now, we're looking at about $330-something million shifted from the state to the counties. So obviously that's going to be something they're going to have to prepare for. For this week, this will do it. Thank you very much. Liam Farrell, you can find his work on hometowninnapolis.com, and his blog is there as well. It's called In Session. And as always, check me and Len out on marylandreporter.com.